Hey guys, Josh Barker here. I wanted to make a video on PTSD and how to better understand someone with PTSD. A lot of people out there that have PTSD and a lot of people that don't understand how to help them or how to understand them. And I hope to shed some light on what it is to deal with someone that has PTSD. Obviously, there's different forms of PTSD. Everyone's got PTSD from, some significant trauma. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. It's evolved over the years. From World War II, it used to be shell shock, and now it's different. Now it's PTSD, and it's a wide range of things. You can get PTSD from a car accident and the fear of ever getting a car again. You can get PTSD from obviously a veteran experiencing war, and anything and everything in between. I want to help people that don't have PTSD, that don't have these issues, to help better understand how and why people act the way they do. A little backstory on me. I was in the military. I joined out 17. I first joined as a mental health specialist. So I was helping people with these issues that I had no idea how to really relate to them at that time. A couple years later, I did one deployment in Iraq then. A couple years later, I decided I want to go Special Forces. Went through assessment and selection. Obviously, I got selected, went on to the Special Forces qualification course, where it's about a year and a half long. And then my first deployment as a Special Forces operator in 2010. And that's when things changed for me. I don't regret anything, but I experienced a lot of trauma. I enjoyed it, I enjoyed my career. I enjoyed my life in the military. I enjoyed being in the Special Forces, but it took a toll on me. My first deployment to Afghanistan was at the very end of 2009 and into 2010. It was a year-long deployment, or almost a year long. We had 5 months in between after I got back, and went back over in 2011, 2012 for another year-long deployment. During these deployments, we were shot at more times than I can count. Experienced IEDs all over the place, teammates getting blown up. The Afghan force we were working with getting hit with IEDs, getting shot. Being shot at was normal. We were getting shot at all the time, it seemed like. We usually chose the missions to get shot at, though, so there's that. But over these years, I developed problems that I didn't know were problems at the time. Suppressing all this, all the anxiety of deploying, suppressing the anxiety of possibly dying on every single mission you go out on. You can't think about this stuff when you're out there, so you suppress it. It's in the back of your mind. Every once in a while it resurfaces, but you suppress it because you can't focus on the possibility of dying. I was the engineer on the team, so I was the one in charge of taking care of IEDs whenever we came across one. So walking up to an IED is one of those things, you try not to think about is dying. So with that being said, I didn't know how bad my PTSD was until I got back from Afghanistan. And when things slowed down in America, they didn't in my head. They never slowed down in my head. And that's when I realized, after I had my panic attacks, that's when I realized there were bigger issues. So a lot of the issues I started experiencing were night terrors. I would wake up freaking out, cold sweat, bed drenched, and thinking that I'm still in Afghanistan, thinking that I'm still being shot at, thinking that another teammate just died. Those are the worst ways to wake up. It was so hard. When I'd wake up from a night terror, it would mess me up for days. They didn't happen often, but when they did happen, it's almost like it fried my brain. I'd shut down. All I would ever think about was that dream I had. I'd wake up so startled, I'd sit straight up, thinking that there's an enemy somewhere in the house, thinking that I'm in Afghanistan, whatever the situation. Other issues, I became secluded. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to go out with friends. It got worse my second deployment when I came back. I was drinking all the time and I didn't want to go out. I stayed home, and to numb myself from experiencing the anxiety, I drank. And it was often. Something I'm not proud of, but at the same time, it's how I coped. And I had to get through it. Another fear that I had was the fear of being in public and being around people. I avoided everything that was public. I didn't want to go to any fairs. I didn't want to go to large stores. I didn't want to go anywhere. I stayed to myself and barely saw any of my friends. Over the years, my anxiety got worse. It got worse to the point people started to worry about me. I'd get irritable. I'd have these tension headaches all the time. And the only way I could cope with these tension headaches was alcohol. Alcohol seemed to be the one thing that helped all my issues, but I didn't know it was making me worse. I was never actually dealing with my issues. I was only suppressing them like I was used to. In the military, you don't have time to feel your feelings while you're on mission. If someone just died, you can't really process it. You keep moving because you're on a mission. Same thing when I had that anxiety. I didn't want to feel those feelings, so I suppressed it with alcohol. And then came the depression. Depression lasted for years, over a decade. And everything, got worse with alcohol, including my depression. I thought I was treating myself by working out, by eating clean, and talking and being in therapy, but I never really stopped drinking the alcohol. I cut back quite a bit. There's times where I cut back significantly from what I used to. But still drinking any form of alcohol, you become dependent on it. So all I say is, if you have someone that is experiencing these symptoms and you become frustrated, and I know it's hard, but be patient with them. They're experiencing trauma, they're experiencing so many more emotions that they probably can talk, more than they can talk about. So be patient with them. They need to know you're there for them. And be that person that they can talk to.